Many times on our show, we talk about how all of us have a soundtrack to our lives. And I know mine has, at least 8,000 songs and 16,000 songs. But, those very special songs that you can name where you were, what you were doing. Every time you hear it or feel it, you can picture where you were. And that is the soundtrack to our lives. And many times we don't know exactly who the musician was. And today on our show, we have one of those legendary musicians who plays on so many of those songs that have become the soundtrack to many of our lives. And he is a blues man. That's why I'm wearing my blue today. And I mean, really, the blues is how so many American bands began. But he is a legendary saxophone player, harmonica player, musician, bluesman, songwriter, musician, producer, journeyman, father, so many things. I want everyone to give a very warm welcome to my new friend. Not that new. We've known each other for like a month now because we chat on the phone. Stanley the Behrens. Everyone, welcome, Stanley. Okay, Stanley. Should I call you Stanley or the Baron for the show? I call you Stanley.
Call me Stanley. You can call me Stan.
Okay. Yeah. Stan the Man. Don't you hate when people do that?
Well, actually, I was named after Stan Musial.
Oh my God!
My father was a semi-pro ball player.
Really?
And he even had a company called the Cardinal Fish Company, and I think Musial might have been one of his favorite players.
Wow!
And so he named me Stanley after Stan Musial.
That's so interesting because a lot of times people nowadays. I know when I was having my kids, for like almost the whole 9 months, we were trying to decide what are we going to name them? What are we going to, when you find out what sex the baby is and all of that. And, you try and see how it goes with the last name. But it was, I think we were talking earlier about Keith Richards. And when he and Anita Pallenberg had their first child, they had been watching The Godfather.
Oh, wow.
And they were like, Marlon Brando. Marlon, that's a lovely name, isn't it? And Keith was like, yeah, I quite like it. And she's like, yeah. So they named their first child Marlon Richards.
Oh, cool.
So, favorite baseball player, favorite actor, you're in a long line of favorites. So, music and film, those kind of arts bind us all together. So, let me ask you, you are a New Yorker. Tell me about when we were over there, just to let the audience know, I was stretching my ankle out before, and Stan got right down on the floor with me, having a coffee, and I was like stretching and doing my ankle exercises, and I ended up playing him like YouTube videos, and he played me YouTube videos, and we were like, we might as well have had the meeting, like the whole thing, just on the floor in the corner. It's like, are we rolling or what? Because once I'm down on the floor like a pretzel, that's it, Where are you from, and how did you get to be here in beautiful Los Angeles? Tell us about where you're from, because we know you're a New Yorker, just like me and Peter.
Well, I was born and raised, my first 10 years was in the Bronx, New York.
Oh, my goodness.
There
you go.
And then we moved out of the Bronx. We moved to Long Island.
I lived there too. What town?
I lived in a town called Massapequa.
Absolutely, sure.
And I went middle school, high school in Massapequa. Okay. And right after high school, my dad made me work with him at the Fulton Fish Market.
Okay. Sure.
Down on South Street in Manhattan. It's like right under the Brooklyn Bridge.
Sure.
Yeah.
They moved that to the Bronx.
So I was pushing a hand truck. I was a journeyman at the Fulton Market.
Wow.
From like 64 to 74.
Wow. That's amazing. That's before the South Street Seaport was a thing and a place where
it was one day when I was at the market, I saw some guy park an old boat and hammer up a sign that said South Street Seaport Museum. It was just a little wooden sign and one old boat.
Wow.
And it just took over from that day on.
Unbelievable.
The government came in and said you can't have an outdoor market anymore, to serve to sell food. So they moved the fish market. My family's been down at the Fulton Fish Market for over 100 years.
Wow.
My grandfather was there.
Wow.
My grandfather was a Teddy Roosevelt Rough Rider.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm like, see, this is after hours and hours ago. I'm agog. I'm sorry. I'm just, wow.
Yeah. They patrolled in Texas, right? Weren't they looking for Pancho Villa, the Rough Riders?
That was like the war, San Juan Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it was like somewhere in the late 19th century.
Sure. Wow.
I come from an athletic family. My oldest brother rode thoroughbred racehorses his whole life.
Oh, wow.
And my sister.
You were a gymnast. You said you were a gymnast?
I did gymnastics. My sister Loretta was a Hall of Fame roller derby skater.
Wow.
Yeah, they called her Little Iodine.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, she was famous roller derby skater.
That's crazy. That's amazing.
Was she in that movie with Peter Falk? Was she asked you to be in that movie? Do you remember that movie, the roller derby movie, Peter Falk? I forgot the name of the movie.
Oh,
was it roller derby?
Was that with Raquel Welch?
Yeah, was that with Raquel Welch?
I believe so.
Yeah. She probably had something to do with that movie, but she wasn't in it.
Now I gotta watch it. I just had a flashback of being a little girl. I can remember the outfits, like roller derby. Because roller disco was the thing when I was a little girl. Like, that was a big deal.
Satin orange shorts, almost like Hooters outfits.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had like
and the knee socks,
leggings with like leather pads on it.
Yep. Oh my gosh! Now you're one of how many kids?
There were 6 of us.
Wow, unbelievable. So now you moved out to Massapequa. When did a lot of times when people come on the show and they're in the music industry, were you in a musical household? When did you know you wanted to be a musician? Did you know you wanted to be a musician? I don't know why. I can't even talk to. Why am I hosting a podcast?
After being down at that Fulton Fish Market for a year, I wanted to be a musician.
Yeah, I'd say.
I just, that's like, you got to be an ox. You're basically a human ox.
Yeah, you really are.
I'm pushing a hand truck up cobblestone streets in the snow and the rain and everything with 300-400 pounds of fish on it.
Oh my God, going on tour is like a cakewalk compared to that. Like, really, honestly, seriously.
My father, he was a tough guy at the fish market. Even the people at the fish market said, you Artie Behrens kid, your father's a tough guy.
That's pretty good.
I said, well, yeah, I know how tough he is.
Yeah.
I mean, he laid into me a bunch of times.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, do you know your father's a tough guy? No, I don't.
Well, what happened to me, I was pushing a hand truck full of South African rock lobster tails, and I'm loading them onto a truck, and in a blink of an eye, 40 pounds just disappeared. And I go, and that stuff was like the most expensive rock lobster tails.
Rock lobster.
Yeah, so I went back to the stand. I said, "Hey, Pop, I don't know. I'm loading the stuff up in the truck, and just all of a sudden, just 40 pounds just like disappeared. I didn't see who took it or what."
Stole your lobster.
So he said, "Don't worry about it." He went to go see his friend Joe Socks.
Oh.
Joe Socks Lanza, who ran the fish market.
Yeah.
Within a half hour, the lobster tails were delivered back to the stand with an apology. And then I said to this guy, Tony Chickens, who said, your father's a tough guy. I said, I know it now.
Oh my God. Between Joe Socks and Tony Chickens, I'm like, this is This is such an epic story. Oh my God.
The Fulton Fish Market back in the 60s, early 60s, I mean, it was run by a guy named Joe Sox Lanza. They did a thing on Netflix about, and when they showed the fish market, they showed my Uncle Manny pouring fresh shrimp into a basket. I'm watching the Netflix documentary about the mafia in New York.
Oh, yeah,
and who do I see? My Uncle Manny.
Oh my God, that's
my
so
father's
funny.
brother.
That's right. I did watch that. I'm going to rewatch it now. That's why I can say, oh my God, there's Stanley, Uncle Manny.
When they, what was it? Giuliani said, you know,
right.
he said they infiltrated the fish business, you know, and they flashed to the Fulton Market, and you see my Uncle Manny pouring shrimp. My Uncle Manny and my Uncle Mo and my dad all had kids, boys. We were all the same age, and all three, me and my two cousins, we were dedicated to that Fulton Fish Market.
Oh yeah. Like after school, that's where you, well, before school, I mean, obviously you're...
See, I got out because I played music, and you know, we would have to go down to the market at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I would play a gig, and at 2 a.m. I'd leave the gig and head to the market.
Oh my God, how well, okay, let's go back. So when did you start playing music?
I had a harmonica in my mouth ever since I was like 4 or 5 years old.
You're kidding? Wow.
Yeah. You know, like during the 40s, the Harmonicats were a very big band.
Wow.
They had that hit record, "Peg of My Heart."
Oh, I know. Yeah. I do know that song, "Peg of My Heart." That was a big deal. Yeah.
You know, that was a harmonica song.
Oh, wow.
And then there was something about music that affected me physically.
That's the thing.
You know, like I would be in the crib, and if the saber dance came on the airwaves, I would like leap out of the crib and run around the apartment like a chicken without a head. You know,
wow.
There was just something about. You know, like it affected me, and you know, so. I learned actually how to play harmonica by playing Stephen Foster songs. "Oh, Susanna" on top of "Old Smoky." You Are My Sunshine.
Right.
And I knew all those Old Black Joe and Camptown Races. I could play all those songs on a harmonica.
Right.
And in the wintertime, we used to load up the car and take like a 2-week vacation to go down to Miami. We would drive there. So driving through the southern states, I was always a freak with the radio. I always loved to tune into radio stations you couldn't get in New York.
Oh, well, yeah.
And then you'd hear music that they didn't play in New York. So then I started listening to some of the rural stations, and I started hearing like hillbilly music,
right? From Appalachia,
and every once in a while I'd hear like some sort of blues song, and I'd hear somebody play a harmonica, and I'd say, "Wow, that sounds kind of like the harmonica I have, but I can't make it sound like that." You know, they were doing something completely different on the harmonica,
Wow!
And that just lit a
like a fire, like suddenly
lit something up in my head. I got to figure out how they did that.
Right. So it was in those car trips down to Florida in the winter.
Yeah. When I first started hearing like blues harmonica and country harmonica, you know, they in
the American South.
See, what I was doing was like I would have a C harmonica and I would play everything in the key of C.
Right.
You know, they would take that same C harmonica and play everything in the key of D.
Wow.
Or G.
Wow.
You know, they would turn the keys. They would turn the harmonicas around and play in different keys. And I said, how did they do that? You know, So then I started getting records. I think,
Right.
really what first started was Paul Butterfield,
Okay.
1965. And believe it or not, I had the Loving Spoonful had a hit one What a Day for a Daydream.
What a day for a daydream.
But I had the 45, and on the flip side was a tune called Night Owl Blues.
So the B-side to Day for a Daydream.
The B-side of What a Day for a Daydream was an instrumental called Night Owl Blues, and it was John Sebastian playing a blues.
Oh, it was John Sebastian.
Yeah, John Sebastian playing the blues. Ba da 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 ba da da ba da. And I'm going, wow. And so I learned that song, and then I found out Muddy Waters with James Cotton, and Little Walter, and Howlin' Wolf, and and Sonny Boy Williamson, and then I had, I was really lived on Long Island. The harmonicas, the Hohner harmonicas, all came from a company called Hohner, and they were located in Hicksville, Long Island.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
There was all the American distribution of harmonicas was done from Andrews Road, Hicksville, Long Island. If you look at some of the old boxes,
I know exactly where that is too.
yeah. So I used to go out to the Hohner company out there, and and I would be able to buy harmonicas for $2. $2 a piece. And I became friends with the technician that worked there, and so he taught me all about tuning the harmonicas and how to tweak them, and just I learned all about harmonicas inside and out.
Wow.
And who used to also go out there was Sonny Terry.
Okay.
The guy that played all that country blues harmonica on so many records, and so I became friends with Sonny Terry.
Well, there you go. There you have a mentor. Right there.
Yes. I mean, so me and Sonny would sit there at the Hohner company, and he would show me stuff, and I'd try to emulate him.
So do you do like call and response like with him?
Yeah. I mean, Sonny was just so amazing.
Wow.
Back then, how easy was it to access somebody like that? Because there wasn't, so many barriers in place, but managers, agents, and
Well, yeah, Sonny used to just go to the Hohner place with his wife, to get new harmonicas. And my friend Andy Paskus, the technician, used to set them up so they were easy for Sonny to play. Sonny played the harmonica upside down, like I play it holding my right hand, and then and the low notes are this way, like on a piano.
Exactly.
The lower notes are to the. Sonny played it upside down. So, and it's funny.
Exactly.
Paul Butterfield also played upside down.
Wow.
I knew Paul.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm learning so much now about and if you play it upside down, it's kind of like, how we were talking before about Tom Morello and why does he do that thing with, his guitar strings? Well, we're going to find
it's
out.
like the same thing with the guitar. You just flip the thing over and you're playing it.
Right. It's kind of like just doing it your own way, but you really knew the instrument from the bottom, like you knew what you wanted to play, you knew sound. I mean, from the time you were a tiny child. So this was a calling. You just felt it in your soul.
Yeah, oh yeah, I was gravitated to that instrument.
Yeah.
And I tried to take a diatonic harmonica and do more with what it was capable of.
Well, absolutely.
So I started, like I'd listen to these blues players and country players, and they would be playing notes that are not on the harmonica, but you get them by what you call bending the notes.
Sure.
Right.
And so I learned how to bend all the notes, and there's kind of a thing about that is some of the notes will bend like in half steps, you can go like a step and a half on one reed. So then I had to learn how to play each particular note that's bent on that one reed. So like on a C harmonica, I would take the B note, I play B natural, I would play B flat on that same hole, A natural and A flat. So there you got like a chromatic scale.
Sure.
You know, so I can play like pretty much a whole chromatic scale
That is
on a diatonic
insane.
harmonica.
That is because, a lot of people, I think people who aren't in this industry or maybe not, a lot of times people talk about raw talent, which clearly you have. And it just, from your soul and your solar plexus, you feel it physically from the time you're like in a crib. Just something about music. Like someone once asked.
There was something in me that just... I
responded to it, right?
Yeah, it affected me.
Exactly. And yet, though, you learned and practiced and became so devoted to your craft. I mean, like, it's insane.
I took those records, I would be dropping the needle on a record on a harmonica solo, and I would try to learn that solo not only note for note, but every little inflection in the note, like how it crescendoed and how it descended and the vibrato and tone of the note.
It's so true.
I would go over and over and over again, like I wore out my James Cotton record. He was such a great influence on James Cotton.
I was going to say, James Cotton is really just such an epic, legendary player.
And Little Walter. And then I also was like totally into Charlie McCoy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Charlie was an amazing, like a super picker on the harmonica with those country licks.
Right. Exactly. Well, it's like, when people talk about, with anything, it's like, people talk about Jimmy Page and Eddie Van Halen and Duane Allman. Like, it's apples and oranges and bananas. Like, yes, so learning about how every master of that instrument does it. So I can picture, I literally have a mental picture now in my head of you just like dropping the needle on the vinyl and practicing over and over. Like, did you drive your family insane?
If I couldn't get the whole lick, I would pick it apart and see if I can get the first two notes of the lick.
Wow.
And then if I got the two notes down, I would try to extend it until I can play the whole lick, and then I can play the whole solo. Just.
Oh, that's amazing.
What was the first thing that, when you played it, and it sounded like the record, that when it hit you, like, oh my God, I got it? What was the first thing?
Yeah, well, it was like a process. After a while, I got it. I could do it. I can play along with the record note for note, and you couldn't hardly tell who was playing what.
Wow.
That's how it is. And then I did it with a whole bunch of other different harmonica players. So I developed my own sound by combining everybody else's sound together. It was like mixing everybody up in a pot.
It's like a gumbo. It's like literally I've been talking about. It's everything. It's really
I'm the product of like what I heard from all these other harmonica players. So I was a product of Charlie McCoy and Little Walter and James Cotton, a little bit of Sonny Boy, Sonny Terry. So I tried to figure out a way where I can carry like the maximum amount of, like the whole chromatic scale of harmonicas,
right?
With a couple of altered ones also. So like there's like 14 in here. And I figured, how do I make it in the smallest, most compact way that I could just walk into the gig with this and play anything.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah, so
that's fantastic.
Yeah, so I did that, and I came up with this.
What year did you make this box? This box is amazing.
Well, I made my first one.
Yeah, I'm sure you have a few, right?
Yeah. When I basically played nothing but Hohner harmonicas, the box was a little smaller,
Right.
and it was made out of like it was a broken drawer. The wood from the bottom of the drawer, I used that, and somebody had a big hunk of naugahyde,
Right.
and I put together the box. It was sort of like a leathery box that held 12 harmonicas.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Then I came up with, well, I met my friend Lee Oscar, and because I knew a lot of knowledge about the internal makings of a harmonica.
Right.
And I taught a lot of that stuff to Lee. So we became really good friends, and he started supplying me with harmonicas when he
Oh wow.
when he got the distribution rights to the Tombow Harmonica Company.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they gave him his own signature harmonica.
Wow.
It's Lee's name on them.
Okay, so what if, say, you could only, no, that's a terrible question. This is like a terrible question to ask. Say you could only choose like one kind of harmonica to play. That's a terrible question. I'm not going to ask you that. Oh my God, it's like Sophie. It's like Sophie's Choice. I mean, my Lord, it was a little heavy, but you know what I mean. It's like yeah, it's like, I mean, do you do a Les Paul? Like, do you know what I mean? It's like.
Well, I'm not sure exactly the context of your question.
I know, I'm not doing the right context. Let's say, if you...
Choice between like a Gibson or a Fender. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean, but it depends.
Well, like right here, I got a Hohner and a Lee Oscar.
Right.
You know, there's things about each one of them that I like.
Exactly.
What I didn't like about the Lee Oscar harmonicas was the way they tuned them. But because I knew how to tune harmonicas,
Right.
I would put more of a Hohner kind of tuning on a Lee Oscar harmonica,
Right.
which gave me like the best of both worlds.
Exactly. But that's because you're you, and
Yeah,
you knew how to
most
do that.
people don't know how to take the covers off and then take a jeweler's file and start filing on the wreaths to change the pitch.
Wow. That's insanely amazing.
Well, that's
Oh
what
my
I learned
gosh.
from Andy.
Right. I was going to say, is that what Andy taught you? That's so...
Yeah, Andy,
Wow.
the technician in at the Hohner
Over at
place.
Hohner. Wow, that's crazy. So, when would you say, how old are you at this point when you're learning from records and that sort of thing? When do you decide, or how were you hired for your first gig? Or when did you, not like paid gig, but like when were you playing like in clubs at night? Like, how old were you?
Well, probably like 18.
Okay.
I was 18. You know, that was. You can get into clubs. I wasn't in high school anymore. And you know, New York, 18 was drinking age.
Right.
You know, so yeah, I started sitting in with bands because I knew how to play the harmonica, and you know, I would get up on stage and play, and people seemed to like it. You know, then
I'd say.
yeah. So then what happened to me when after working down at the fish market, I decided I didn't want to work there anymore.
Right.
So I came to California.
Oh, okay. You like, I'd rather smell like booze and cigarettes than fish. So,
I came
lipstick
to
booze.
California in 1965.
Okay, so 65 you came out here.
Right.
Okay.
Just to get away from the fish market. I was living.
What was the plan? Like, where'd you stay? What was that?
Well, my sister Loretta, the roller derby skater, had a house in a town called Arleta.
Okay.
Which is basically Pacoima.
Oh, wow, okay.
But back in 1965, it was, it wasn't. It wasn't like a Mexican or a black neighborhood. It was kind of a mixed neighborhood, mostly white people.
Was it like so? Like so it was like the Valley or the Inland Empire. Like,
yeah, I think there was one Mexican family that lived on the block, and the kid that lived in the house, his name was Joe Reyes. He became one of my best friends when I came out here. But then I started getting draft notices.
Oh, they found you. So you came to California, but the man found you, and you started getting draft notices.
Well, yeah, when I turned 19.
Okay.
I was working at Douglas Aircraft. I was all through high school. My academics was machine shop.
Oh, sure.
I loved machine shop. I love working with metal and the machines. I liked it. So when I came out here, I got a job at Douglas Aircraft doing precision machine work.
Okay, great.
I was making good money. In 1965, I was making $3.25 an hour.
Wow, that's like really good money, actually.
Yeah, it was enough to pay rent, own a car.
Yeah.
Have money in your pocket.
Right.
It was great. But then what happened was I started getting the draft notices. And so then...
Is it like jury duty notices? Do you just kind of slide them in like, nah, I'm not going to look at that? I mean, what do you do?
Well, like they tried to draft me here in L.A., but I hopped on a plane and went back to New York. So I kind of went back and forth until they finally caught up to me. And I got drafted May 1st, 1967 at the height of the Vietnam War.
Wow. Everyone cue I feel like every Vietnam War movie always has a Credence or John Fogerty.
I was just going to say,
right?
Cue Fortunate
Son. Right. Some folks live. I was about to sing it and I forgot all the lyrics. I was about to sing everything. All I can think of is like the opening scenes of either like Platoon or Apocalypse Now. But that's like for people growing, I mean, they found you, and what do you do when you respond? Because everyone knows how famously my father shot himself. He studied anatomy books for a long time and shot himself in the foot.
I went through a whole series of different physicals where I got rated 1Y, and then back to 1A, and then back to 1Y again, and then back to 1A. It was like a whole chain of events till finally they nailed me.
They decided you're fit enough to be
the day I was inducted, I was just whacked out on LSD. Totally whacked out. When they said,
you buried the lead there. The day I was inducted, I was totally whacked out.
I'll never forget this. When they going through the induction ceremony, and you make you take an oath and take one step forward. I took one step backward.
Oh my gosh!
I wouldn't take the step forward, but then the guy behind me pushed me, and once I took that one step forward, you're in,
Oh my God! But because you were on a trip, it shouldn't count. Oh my Lord, that is so funny. Oh my God, I have to take a tiny break to vape. I cannot believe this. This is, okay, I'm dying. Because, you know what, nowadays, wouldn't they say, I'm totally going to vape. It's invalid, like, if you were high at the time or something.
I was totally tripping.
I was going to say.
On acid.
Right? Imagine. So I need to know, where were you finding LSD from, all those bad music people down at the clubs?
Well, no, I mean, it was 1967.
I know,
that's the summer of love.
Like smoking weed, down the street.
There was, I was part of the hippie movement.
Right, exactly.
I was totally part of the hippie movement. I had the long hair and had peace symbols all over me.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. I was playing harmonica in a band.
Well, let me ask you. So when you see people like, I mean, obviously, whenever we see like biopics, and some of our younger viewers and listeners coming up have just seen, a complete unknown. And when you see popular singers who do their own harmonica playing, like a Bob Dylan or a Neil Young or a Bruce Springsteen, like, how do you feel about that? Because it's such an art. Now, having learned your process, like,
the way they play has really little to do with the way I play.
do you think it has to do with being nervous, like what to do with your hands when you're on stage? Like, because I remember, well, Peter will tell you, the first song I learned on guitar was Smoke on the Water, and the second song that I learned how to play was Heart of Gold by Neil Young, which is hugely dominated by what should be a Stanley, harmonica, the Behrens harmonica solo. Why do you think Neil plays his own harmonica there?
Well, it accompanies his guitar playing. Like he's playing a chord on the guitar and he's blowing the same chord on the harmonica.
Right.
It's basically
it's
diatonic harmonicas are set up very simply. It's a root chord and a five. So it's a 1 and a 5.
Right.
And if you have a 1 and a 5, 5, 7, you can basically play almost a million songs.
Right. Exactly.
Between 1 and 5. And if you know how to sneak in a 4 chord, and like a 2 minor. Perfect.
You look perfectly
Well, this was in basic training. I went through basic training because I used to be a gymnast.
Oh, okay, that's right.
So all the calisthenics they did was simple for me.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh, yeah, tell me something I don't know.
Yeah, that was all easy for me. Being like, this was down in Columbia, South Carolina, so, and I came from like a New York attitude family and everything.
Right, you came from Massapequa, and now you're in Columbia, South Carolina.
So they immediately made me an acting corporal first day in the Army.
Also, isn't being in the Army how you got your nickname, or the Baron? We call you.
Well,
how did you get your nickname, the Baron?
It was while I was in the Army down south.
Okay.
They'd say, "Hey, what's your name?" I go, "Behrens." They go, "Baron?" No, it's Behrens. And they go, "Baron?" I said, "No, can you say Behrens? Baron?" I said, "Oh man, just call me the Baron."
Oh my God! And it stuck.
And it kind of stuck. Yeah, I was playing in a band in Fayetteville. And
Vietnam, as they call it.
Yeah, right. Vietnam. I was stationed at Fort Bragg.
Right.
And I was playing at a place called the Pink Pussycat. It was a great band. The band was called The Time Approximate. In fact, I even have pictures of that.
Oh my God, I love that. I mean, the fact that like there was a place that you could play called the Pink Pussycat in Fayetteville, or as I call it, I don't know why Vietnam is stuck in my head, because like I do not come from a military family, and I'm trying to think. I don't know anyone who was. I mean, Fort Bragg obviously is where a lot of people were stationed. I went to school in the South, and my people are Southern, obviously. But it's just the fact that there was a club.
This was something. While I was in the service, I came up with a tool to teach.
Oh my gosh!
And that shows where all the notes that are on the harmonica.
Oh wow! Show this to the camera. That's fantastic.
And then all the notes that you can bend.
Oh.
See,
okay.
Between the C and the D, you have a D flat. Between the E and the G, you would have like F and F sharp.
Right, exactly.
Right. Between the G and the B, you would have the B natural. You have the B flat, the A, and the A flat.
Right.
Right. So there's your chromatic notes right there. And then you got like C, D flat, and D natural. Between E and F, there's no bend.
Right. So you're playing.
So I learned how to single out each note.
Right.
Like if somebody said, pick up a harmonica and say,
Any kind of harmonica, it didn't matter.
A diatonic
A
harmonica.
diatonic harmonica, but you were playing it in a chromatic way. Like that's
right.
mind-bending,
But
actually.
the thing is, like, if somebody say, "Can you play the F sharp on your C harmonica?"
Right.
I didn't have to play any other note but the F sharp.
Oh my goodness.
You know, so I learned how to play the bent note straight on.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's like talent from. That's like a divine kind of. And I know it's practice, but that's
you had to do it.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's insane.
Yeah, so like.
So when you're stationed down there, obviously you're with all kinds of people from different cultures, and now you're in the American South. This place that, when driving from New York to Florida as a child and listening to you started hearing them in the clubs, and so you're actually playing the blues. So you are now a musician.
Right.
So how does it morph into? So you've decided now, okay, so you're a corporal in the Army, but you're a musician at night.
Well, I started, I was playing, I was a member of the band.
Exactly. Was everybody in the band from the Army, or were there people from the town?
Well, the drummer and was, he retired. He was out of the Army.
Okay.
We were all kind of military.
Right. Kind of military.
The girl lead singer, she was. The band was almost like a Jefferson Airplane.
I was going to say it was like Grace Slick. You had a female lead singer.
Female lead singer.
By someone that was stationed at Fort Bragg with Stan. You want me to read it?
Yes.
Okay. I was stationed at Fort Bragg when Stan was there, and remember him playing with the Hot Nuts at a roadside bar. You see, there was this group from New York City and California. Tex with the Camaro, Bob with the Healy Sprite, and about 10 others. Those were the good days. Bruce M. was my best friend, Brooklyn.
Wow.
Wow. The Hot Nuts.
The Hot Nuts.
Okay, that is a great. You played with the Hot Nuts at the Pink
I don't even remember that.
You were still in your LSD phase.
Oh, it could be.
Oh my God!
Who wrote that?
Someone named Bruce from. Okay, we need to find Bruce. Can you write to the show if you are still with us? And we need to find Bruce. And
I know. I have his name. Robert Barthel.
Oh, Robert Barthel.
Barthel. He wrote it on July 17th, 2017.
Okay.
And this was an article from Radio Venice TV.
Oh, wow. Oh,
wow.
Okay.
Radio Venice.
Yeah, that's probably not that long ago.
Exactly.
No, not long ago.
No.
So let me, not being really that chronological, when did you realize that maybe music would be your life? I mean, it was your life, but when did you realize that you could actually make a living this way by being a musician?
All I ever wanted to do was just be up on a bandstand playing music, and I didn't give a shit about the money.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I just never.
Yeah.
I never.
It's just what you wanted to do.
It just had this passion to be up there and play and watch people bob their heads and dance around and well, to tell you the truth, it's a better way to pick up girls.
Absolutely. I don't think,
it was definitely.
Let me tell you.
Better. It was definitely better. Advantage.
You're talking to an almond. I think we, I think we know. But
No, I won't lie. It's
right? It's a lot cooler, I guess, to say. And as a woman who's also a musician, and let me tell you, it's not a way to pick up guys, but there is something we call rock star energy. It doesn't matter if it's in a club with 30 people or a stadium with 60,000 people. There is something about musicians. Girls, am I right?
I was basically pretty shy.
Well, that's what music does for you. It allows you to speak a common language.
I mean, I had a hard time, just going up to a girl and talk to her. You know, I was pretty shy.
Themselves at you.
You know, but being on the bandstand, you could see the girls that are giving you the eye.
That's right.
You know, I mean, you get a connection. You lock eyes with a girl that's out there in the audience. You know, and then you know she's looking at you. So then you feel a little bit more comfortable about going out there and talking to her.
Right. Because obviously she's responding to what you're playing. And I think this is true of so many musicians. I think that it wasn't about the money or the record deals or the bands that they played with. It was sometimes a way to overcome. They say something like 95% of us, people in the music industry, suffer from either anxiety or ADHD or whatever you want to call it, shyness, a lack of confidence.
I'm totally shy when it came to
right. When it comes to just like socially interacting with
I mean,
people.
I'd see some gal from the other side of the room, and I would like swoon. I go, oh man, she's so beautiful, but I'd be scared to go and say something to her.
But the music is the language that all of us respond to, and I think there's something really. I think that's why we had what I guess we used to call, groupie culture, or why women still, to this day, why do you think, I mean, it's not even a question. I mean, there is such a thing. Music does that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, now that I'm much older, I got over that,
But still, the thing is, I think when anyone witnesses you, doing something they truly love, and are so passionate about and good at, it's not about anything else. You know what I mean? That's why you're attracted to somebody. It's because you're witnessing them deeply within something they are so passionate about. And what's a bigger turn on than that? And I think that's one of the things that Cameron Crowe got right in the movie Almost Famous. That the character played by Jason Lee, Jeff Beebe, he's like, if you're in that audience and you're not getting off, I want you to get off. I'm going to be that guy who gets you off. That's my job. And it's so true.
Yeah.
It's about connecting as human beings. And, obviously in a different way. But you know what I'm saying. I think that's one thing why that was a movie for musicians as well as the general public. I see that one guy who's not getting off, and and that's the whole thing. The times were troubling as they are now. You were talking about the late 60s and early 70s when you first started playing in bands. The times were difficult. Music brought everybody together and was a way to heal. And I think it is doing that again. So when you played with a lot of bands that had a lot of anthemic hits that did change, that reflected the times and made change. Tell me about that. Like, did you know you were part of something historic, or do you look back on it now and realize it? I mean, how do you know?
I'll tell you a story. I had a friend. He was a collector, and he had this 1958 Gibson Flying V guitar.
Wow.
It was an original 58 Flying V.
Wow.
So he said, Johnny Winter is at the record plant in downtown.
The record plant, a very famous studio.
He said he's going to want to play this guitar. So he said, "Come along with it was me and a couple of guys from the band that I was in at the time." So we went to the record plant and knocking on the door, and the guy's going, "It's a closed session," and he holds up that Flying V guitar. He says, "Johnny Winter wants to play this," and he looked at it and goes, "Oh, okay, come on in."
Oh my gosh!
So Johnny's looking at the guitar. Rick Derringer is at the board.
Rick Derringer was
he was
no
there.
way.
He was there producing the record. Now Edgar was playing saxophone on one of the tracks, and then so Johnny's looking at the guitar. So my friend Mark says, "I'll let you play the guitar. But you got to let my friend Stanley play harmonica with you." So Johnny goes, okay, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. But Johnny was, I mean, I don't know what he was on, but he was not in good form. He wasn't in good shape at all. And so we're in the studio, and Johnny starts playing the guitar, and he's sitting on a stool, and he's going like this, you know. And I said, wow, he's really getting off, and he keeps leaning more and more forward until finally he just went flat on his face on top of the guitar. Strings were popping off the thing. Oh, he looks up at me. He goes, "Man, you play great harp. I suck on the guitar." I'm going. I can't believe this is Johnny Winter. You know.
Oh my God.
So meanwhile, what happened was these guys from Studio A, they were in there and they heard me playing with Johnny Winter. Then they said, you want to come sit in on our session? I said, oh, sure, okay, you know. So they cue up a track, and they say, here, play something to this. So it was like something in the key of E. I do like 12-bar intro to this song, and after I do this 12-bar intro, the producer, a guy named Jack Douglas, says, "Are you in the union?" I said, well, no. He says, well, you're not allowed to be here. Get out.
Oh my God.
They kicked me out. So, you know, I didn't think that much of it until I was in my car one day and the disc jockey goes, here's new from Alice Cooper. And blaring out of the speakers was 12 bars of me.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
I'm on a big hit record.
So this was the first cut from this album, this hit album.
It was on the album Muscle of Love.
Muscle of Love. Oh, my God. Oh, that's you. That's you on that song.
That's me on that song.
Oh, my God. Are you credited?
No credit, no pay, no nothing.
Oh my goodness! You know what? We talk all the time about people. So forever.
Here,
oh, let's hear it.
That's all I can listen to.
Oh my God! I am here to say. See, now we don't have to pay ASCAP or BMI rights because you know.
Yeah, so
oh my God!
That's my Alice.
That's you.
That's me. Yeah, that's definitely me.
Oh my God!
There's no mention of it on the record. I never got paid, and now they re-released it on his greatest hits.
Oh my God! So
and I still don't.
And not wouldn't. Yeah. Well. Oh yeah. Wow. Oh my goodness. So even though wow, that's really interesting. So they invited you. So you were at the winter sessions in Studio A or Studio B, and then Alice Cooper was the band in the other studio, and they heard you. And
yeah, Alice Cooper was in Johnny was in Studio B.
Yep.
Alice was in Studio A.
Yep. Oh my goodness.
So they heard me playing with Johnny and said, "Hey, why don't you come sit in on our session?" They queued up that track, and I just played those 12 bars, and they said. Then that guy kicked me out.
Oh my goodness! Because you weren't in the union, and yet they released it as their number one single, and it charted, and it became a huge hit.
Oh yeah, platinum record.
Absolutely,
you know?
RIAA
some guy not that long ago. He's like has something to do with Alice Cooper fan club or something. Uh-huh. He said to me, "How could you be on a hit record by one of the greatest, biggest artists of the time, and nobody knows?"
Well, I think now they do. Yes, they do. I'm telling you.
Said, nobody knows.
Files. What's the background from that when you got that theme song?
So I have to share a little bit about myself. So
Arthur.
So another thing that they get right, when you're talking about fandom and women, like the term groupie is bandied about with zero responsibility. And everyone always goes, oh, like your mom who raised you or your groupie mom? And I'm like, oh my God, like we have to have labels. But the woman who gave birth to me, who I call Mama, who was Greg's girlfriend at the time, she was, I guess, again with the Cameron Crowe, a Band-Aid. Basically, there was a club in New York that I don't know if you remember. Obviously, I was not yet around, but it was called Trudy Heller's.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Like it was like a. Have you played there?
No, but I know the place.
Okay, so it was like a disco before they had these gold cages and go-go girls. It was like a very like swanky, like nightclubby.
I was around that same time period. I was playing at a place called Scott Muni's Rolling Stone.
Yes. Wait, Scott Muni. Why do I know that name?
This jockey
Wasn't he a DJ?
DJ, big time DJ in New York. Scott Muni.
Yes. What station?
I think it was ABC.
Oh my God! You totally got that.
Yeah, The Voice. This is Scott Muni, Movie Music Marathon on WNEW 102.7.
Yes! Oh my God. Well, anyway, so my mama, who gave birth to me, when she was 17 or 18, she would, anyway, Trudy would audition bands like the first Monday of the month. And so they had all come up from, Georgia, and they were in that whole West Village area playing all those places. And if you auditioned on a Monday, you would get the gig for 3 weeks. And she would put you up at the Chelsea Hotel.
Oh, yeah.
And feed you. You had a per diem. You got 3 meals a day, and you stayed at the Chelsea Hotel, and you could drink all you wanted. And I mean, that sounds like a really good deal. You got a 3-night gig. I'm sorry, 3 weeks. So and they were closed maybe Sunday night or Monday night. Auditioning was Monday night. Right. So you got to play for 3 weeks and get yourself on the map, and you got to stay at the Chelsea Hotel, and everything. This is how Trudy would book bands. So they played. They were probably the Allman Joys at that point, and they were about to be changing their name to the Allman Brothers. But it was still Barry Oakley and Dwayne and my father and Jay. So it's basically the Allman Brothers Band, but they're calling it the Allman Joys. And Trudy apparently said, "Nah, people aren't gonna. It's too swampy. People aren't gonna shake their ass like almost like it was before like disco. This is like 1966, 67.
Yeah, sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, disco music hasn't really.
No.
It was more of soul music back then. Right.
And so these boys, while they were black and white, so they were, a multiracial band, but they were from the South and they were too bluesy. She didn't think that, Trudy liked them, but didn't think that they were going to get people to come and dance. So my mother was the one, she and her friend, she was like kind of the taste arbiter of like the bands who would like go through there. So I guess like the groupie, the Penny Lane, I don't know, the Band-Aid, And so she sat the boys down and said, all right, here's what Trudy said. Trudy said, no one's going to dance. You need to be a little bit more up-tempo. You need to do this. So they would like sit in and they would rewrite and they would rework songs. And so they went back the next day or something, and because my mother said to Trudy, no, they'll be back. You'll like them. Girls are going to love them. And Trudy's like, whatever you say. And so they come back and they'd reworked a few things and they had different energy or something. And Trudy hired them. And so I arrived, 9 months later at St. Vincent's Hospital.
Recording in progress.
Really? Recording in progress?
I'm recording on my end.
Okay. I know. I don't know why the phone just told me that. So apparently I was conceived at the Chelsea Hotel. It's a very New York rock and roll story. Don't show this again. Wait, why is this happening? Why are we having... Yeah, you saw my big hand over there. Anyway.
Yeah, I remember that time period because I was playing at Scott Muni's Rolling Stone with a band called the Bittersweet.
Oh.
And we would alternate weekends with another band called the Vagrants.
Okay.
And the Vagrants, the guitar player and the bass player were brothers. It was Larry and Leslie Weinstein. Leslie was this big fat guy. He had a really big, loud voice, played heavy metal type guitar, and he became Leslie West.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So somebody's agent made him change his name. Otherwise, he would be like Harvey Weinstein. We don't need that.
His real name was Leslie Weinstein, but he became Leslie West.
Leslie West sounds a lot better. Oh my gosh. The Bittersweet. Okay, so you're gigging. So the West Village was where it was at, correct? In that time period.
Well, the Rolling Stone was 48th and 2nd Avenue. It was like Midtown.
Midtown, yeah.
Yeah, but then it was like the Metropole, which is further up.
Yeah.
So there was all kinds of places around. There was Steve Paul. He had a place called The Scene.
That's right. I do remember hearing about that.
Yeah, that's where the young rascals got their start.
That's right. So yeah, man, there's nothing like live music. Like going to a club to see live music, I think, is one of those things that even today is something that we all do. Nothing replaces that experience of seeing a band live, especially in a small club. And you live here in Venice, California, and
this was way back before I came out here.
Oh yeah, but I was sort of jumping to like going to see live music because we'll edit it properly. But going to see live music in LA, like I love doing that. And, you know, downtown to me has a lot of great clubs to see lots of bands. And Venice used to have, what was the band that used to be in Venice that we loved? And, oh my God, like not long ago. I want to say in the 90s. They always had great bands.
Sublime? Are they from Venice?
No, I'm saying the name of the place. Yeah, I think, no, they are. I think Sublime has recorded here, I believe.
Okay.
The band? Yeah. Anyway, but, you know, seeing music live in the clubs, I think, is a really important part of the experience.
Oh, yeah.
Even now. Do you think that will ever change? Like, I think we're too close to it because we're all in the music business, but everybody in this building, like, we all go out to seek out going to see music. Do we still do that as a people, or
yes,
we do?
Absolutely.
Because you and I, like, we're gonna go out to see the Midnight Riders, like, play, like,
yeah.
You know.
If I did that, they would ask me to be on stage and play a couple of songs with them.
Well, obviously. I mean, you're still gigging everywhere. You're still recording. You're everywhere.
Yeah, fortunately, I am. I'm still worried. I just came back from Canada.
Oh my gosh. So you just played a gig. Oh, your friend Tommy, who has a studio, and I got in contact. So, oh my God, what's his name?
Tom Freund?
Yes.
Oh.
Isn't that exciting? It's so exciting. The music industry is such a small industry. We all like know each other. Like, you know how like people, like we all find each other.
Yeah.
After you and I met and we started talking on the phone, I like got a message like on Instagram from him. I was like, "Oh my God, are you a friend of Stan's?" And it was so funny because I think he has like a really great studio at home. But I find a lot of musicians build out home studios if they have space. If you live in the outer, like here on the west side, it's a little hard to find spots, you know. So when you go out to hear live music nowadays in any city, and I'm not talking like big concerts like arena, where do you like to go? Like, do you have places that you like to go? I don't care if it's Minneapolis or like. It's not a trick question either.
No. It's like I'm trying to figure out where I actually like to go. I like to go places that musicians that I know.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like to go see just like any random bands.
Well, no one does. I mean, I think we all go see people that we know,
You know,
sort of.
like there's like a couple of places that I like here in L.A. Did you ever go to what's that, Ireland's 32 or something like that?
Oh, yeah, I know which place you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a musician's hangout.
It really is.
Yeah, I always know a bunch of people that are just hanging out there.
Yep.
Plus, the people who play there are usually friends.
Exactly.
There's a place that opened up right near where I live called the Venice West.
Yeah, I go there a lot.
Oh, I'm just like down the street from that.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Oh my God! I probably
in
walk
fact,
by your
I have
house.
clout in that place. I never have to pay to get in there.
Oh my Lord! Yeah.
The bouncer guy, AJ. He's come
I
on in.
love that guy.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the Venice is it's really a musician hangout. Like, I've seen everybody there in the audience. Like, on any given night, you'll see everybody there watching, and then people will just jam and get up and go on stage and that kind of thing. I really like that place. It has a good energy.
Yeah, it used to be something else. It used to be called the Wits End.
Oh, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, it was the Wits End there for a while.
It's got good real estate there.
Yeah, that place had a vibe even when it was the Wits End.
Yeah, it's definitely about the building. There's something about that building. And my tattoo artist is right down the street from there. And it's a real like old Venice place that people hang out. It's a music.
I think it was once a studio.
Yeah, I think it was.
Like Mad Dog or something like that. Mad Dog Studio, I think it was.
It was. It absolutely was. Yeah, because it's pretty big, but it's still very intimate. And if, like, on any given night, you can see. Well, we don't want to give it away anyway. But I'm glad that you like that place. I like that place too. I bet we've run into each other. I'm sure.
Oh, probably.
Yeah, for sure. We got to take you there next time. It's one of those places that, people talk about it. It's kind of like, you always want to go where chefs go to eat when they knock off from their restaurant. Like, you want to go where the musicians go to hear music, that kind of thing. That's why it's always like whoever's in the audience and whoever there's the lines are blurred, like whoever's on stage and is in the audience. It's kind of like one big jam place, and yet it's, open to the public. But it's really surprising things can happen on that stage.
Oh, yeah.
Magical things.
Yeah, most of the time when I go there, somebody will say, "You want to come sit in?"
Yeah.
So
I feel like I've seen you play there. Definitely.
Probably.
Yeah, you definitely have.
Those guys from Ozo Motley.
Yes.
Yeah, they always say, "Come on up and play with us,"
Oh my gosh, that's so much fun.
Yeah.
That is really a lot of fun. It's really good to be in, and I think anywhere in, wherever people are watching this from, like, I think there's always a gathering place wherever your town is, where people like to, just pick up and play music and gig. Don't you think that's how all bands really start, and it's where we end up. And even if we find fame and fortune in all of the stadiums and whatever, it's really where it all happens, or those nights where it's just magical.
Yeah, there's that guy Cadillac Zack who puts on the Monday night blues shows over in Tarzana.
Yep, that's a really good time.
Yeah,
it's a really good time.
I'll go out there to see people I like, people I know.
Oh yeah. Oh, we should do that. We'll do that. We got to do that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that'd be really fun. So, one of the things that we like to talk about on this show, a lot of people like you, a lot of famous musicians have found work in film and in TV, and you were a part of one of probably the most iconic TV show theme song, and that's for The Rockford Files. How did you get that gig?
Well, when I came out to California, I came out with a singer named Ruth Brown.
Okay.
She was the biggest star on Atlantic Records.
Oh, yeah.
So from a starting point with Ruth. I met Ruth in a jazz club in New York, and that's when I moved to California. She said, we're putting a little group together and we're going to California. She wanted to get back. She was working as a maid on Long Island.
Right.
You know, so anyway, after working with Ruth, I started hanging out in all these jazz clubs, and I heard that Jimmy Smith, the organ player,
Yes.
had a club, a little jazz club on Victory and Coldwater. So I went. I said, "Hey, can I sit in with you?" You know, and he said, "Yeah." So I was playing, like, you know, who knows, Mojo Working or something like that Jimmy does. And Ruth said, "That's my harmonica player." And Jimmy Smith said, "No, he's my harmonica player now." So then, from working with Jimmy Smith and Ruth Brown, a lot of composers, TV composers, film composers, you know, they always went to the jazz musicians to
do the score, the theme songs, or the
to do music. You know, they were the best players.
Yeah.
So,
like session guys, almost like people were doing jingles for big ad campaigns. So you started doing that.
I started doing some session work, and I think the first big session I did was with Mike Post.
Really?
Yeah, it was during, I think it was 1980. I think
Mike Post, who I think must have made more royalty. I mean, he's the Law and Order. Dun dun. Mike Post has been. I mean, that's how everybody.
He's had
a career.
At least one show airing every season since 1970.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, his list of shows that he composed the music for.
Yep.
You know, it goes on and on.
It's iconic. I mean, he's like the Norman Lear.
I'll never forget the first session I did with him was, I think it was the Olympics. They were doing like a piece of music for each Olympic star. So they had
the 72 Olympics. I mean, the Olympics and 82 Olympics here in Los Angeles.
No, I think it was 80.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, 1980.
So they were doing a piece on a runner named Wilma Rudolph.
Oh yeah.
And they had like an orchestra.
Yeah.
And he hired me to play harmonica in the orchestra, you know. So
wow.
That was my first session with Mike Post, and then it just kind of like more people started calling me for session work.
Wow.
You know,
that's how it happens.
It just took off a little bit. You know, then I started working with different film composers, and then
you were with the Wrecking Crew at some point around that group of people.
What was that?
The Wrecking Crew. Did you spend any time with that group of people?
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
I put together a little jazz band with Earl Palmer and Red Callender and Art Hillary.
Wow.
You know, Earl and Red were both Wrecking Crew players.
Wow. So this is all going on this is why, you know, it's interesting because like doing session work, because all of the guys from Led Zeppelin, I think, were doing like session work.
Page and Jones.
Yeah. So Jimmy and JP, Page and Jones were both, that's what they did when they graduated high school. They were doing session work. Like that was an actual job that you had. And so, and they were doing almost like elevator music or Muzak or that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I've done, there was a name for that music. I actually heard myself in an elevator one time.
You heard your own stuff in an elevator? That's fantastic.
Or they play it in a supermarket.
Right, isn't that,
What was the name of that company that did?
Isn't it called Muzak?
That was it, Muzak.
Muzak. Muzak.
That's right, I've done sessions for Muzak.
Yep, that's exactly it.
That's funny.
That is funny. Wow. See,
you know you've made it in the music business when you heard yourself in an elevator on Muzak.
They paid good royalties too, damn it, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I did a bunch of jingle work, you know. I had a few jingle composers. I mean, I played the flute when they were blowing up the Jack in the Box.
No way.
I played that little do 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 do. I played it on flute.
Oh my
when they were
goodness.
blowing up the Jack in the Box.
Oh wow.
I've done I did Sparklets water.
You're kidding.
Oh, yeah, I did tons of commercials. I get called in.
You really are in the zeitgeist of American culture. It's like so crazy.
Yeah.
Have you heard Lowrider this week? Probably.
Right?
I mean, either on a commercial or
That's so true. That is so true.
So that all started that way. What happened with the Rockford Files? The series ended.
Mm-hmm.
Before I knew Mike, the series ended.
Mm-hmm.
But then they came up with this idea that they would do a 2-hour movie of the week special.
Oh.
It was Rockford Files, and they did like I think at least a half a dozen 2-hour movie of the weeks.
Wow.
So Mike started calling me on all of those.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And we recut the theme music,
Mm-hmm.
and so I got to do Rockford Files on all those movies.
Unbelievable. That is so wonderful because
The best thing about doing the movies was because the movies went into what they call the secondary film market special payments fund. So I was getting every year on July 1st the special payments fund check comes out.
so syndication basically was an annual thing.
Yeah, and if it went to CD or stream or it was, every time it changed format, you'd get paid all over again.
Really?
Yeah, that was the good part of. I mean, I know some session players. They get like on July 1st, they'll get like $100,000. You know,
Oh my God.
from all of TV and movies that they played on.
Right? I'm going to call everybody I know on July 2nd and be like, hey, did you get your check?
Did you get your special payments payment?
Did you get your special payments payment?
Did you get your special check today?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Hell of Spotify.
It's the secondary
Take
film
it-
market secondary film market payment fund, something like that.
That's amazing. And that's the way it should be because, it really does. It puts, money back into the artist's hands. And I think that's a lot of what we talk about.
I get a kind of a modest check. I get at least $5,000. But some of the other guys that I know get like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Wow. Can you imagine, though, like what, the guy who did Dun Dun, from Law and Order?
Well, it's Mike.
I know that's Mike. I know, right?
That's Mike.
Mike Post. If you're
Guess what? I don't know if I told you this. The producer Dick Wolf
Yeah.
of Law and Order.
Yeah.
He's coming up with a new show called Law and Order Texas. And guess who's playing this Law and Order theme on harmonica?
No way.
Yes.
Guys, you heard it here first.
That's an exclusive.
That is.
Mike Post called me a few weeks ago, and
News.
I'm playing the new Law and Order theme on
That
harmonica.
is awesome.
That is so fantastic. Oh my God.
Do you know
is.
who any of the actors are yet?
What's that?
Do you know who any of the cast members are yet, or what city it's taking place in?
No, I don't. All I know is it's called Law and Order Texas.
Yeah.
And
I wonder what city.
there's no publicity about it yet. They said it's kind of under wraps at this. So I imagine it'll probably come out in September.
Let's go legal. Noah, can we talk about this yet? No. When you do, and that's the thing to me, like, here you are, this famous, to me, like to many people, rock star in these bands, have toured the world, but you also are a part of, you're talking about playing the flute for like the Jack in the Box and also being a part of Dick Wolf's new spin-off series.
And Stephen Cannell.
Oh my God, Stephen Gannell! I can still see the logo. Oh my Lord!
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I did the theme to Renegade.
No way.
Yeah, that's me. That's total harmonica theme music.
Renegade is you.
It's me. Yeah.
Everyone, you've got to. Okay, if you have not seen now, okay, this man is such a legend. I had no. Okay, I'm rarely speechless on my own show.
Every day.
I mean, every day in your life, you hear this man's work. I mean, really, you are a part of this culture.
It does play somewhere around the world. Just a lot of times I've turned on the TV and one of those shows will pop up. Murder, She Wrote. I'm on an episode of Murder, She Wrote with Red Callender and let's see, Paul Humphrey on drums, Art Hillary playing piano.
Wow. Isn't this amazing? Like,
Dr. Quinn, the medicine woman.
Oh my God, that's in syndication forever, everywhere.
I'm on one or two of those episodes. They put me, they gave me this big mustache, and I look like I was some.
Oh, do you have a SAG card?
A who?
Do you have a SAG card because they put you on set?
No. It went through AFM.
Oh, it did. Okay.
Yeah.
So they give you a big mustache.
Yeah, they gave me a big mustache, and put me in a minstrel band playing harmonica.
Oh my goodness! I'm telling you. Well, I think the whole point, though, is just to kind of bring it around, is that being a working musician is people. People are always like, oh, don't hang out with those rock stars and those whatever. Your mother always wants you to marry. A doctor or a lawyer. It's like, no, it's like the people that turn out to be the worst human beings are the people who you're supposed to trust. It's like, oh, don't hang out with those terrible rock stars. They're all drug and sex maniacs. It's like, I'm sorry, but, that's the way we like it. And we look, you are a part of literally the cultural, I hate when people use the word zeitgeist, but it's so true. Literally, our daily lives and the nuances and the sounds that we hear in the soundtrack, like we started at the top of the show, the soundtrack of our lives is something you've been a part so much of for so many decades. Like, it's almost, you're legendary, epic. Like, I'm getting shivers just sitting here with you. Like, it's crazy,
It's just, it all just happened,
Right?
I mean,
the cool thing is that when I think we may have talked about this before we were rolling, that when you meet the people that created this, or you find out who it is, and there's a face to it, the next time you go back and hear those songs and watch those shows, and you hear the music, and you go, oh yeah, that's Stanley.
Right.
And now you know who it is. That's Stanley playing. And
yeah.
It'll make, obviously, well, for me, or people that are into that, listen a little bit more, maybe, I don't know. But it's just, it makes it like you're listening to it for the first time all over again. Because you have a different relationship with it.
It's funny how it affects, it affects people.
It really does.
I'll tell you a little story from that show, Renegade.
Mm-hmm.
Mike called me up. He said, I got this music. He sends a messenger over to my place with a cassette tape.
Right.
He said, listen to this and come to my studio tomorrow and show me what you got. That's how Mike,
that's how it works.
That's how Mike writes.
That's how Mike writes his stuff.
So there's a part of the show in the intro.
Right.
They show this guy that looks like an Indian.
Mm-hmm.
So I came up with this melody, da 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 dum da 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 dum da dum da da dum da da dum dum da da dum. It's sort of like a real Indian theme. So I was in Hawaii one time, and the guy his name's Branscombe Richmond.
Okay.
He lives in Hawaii, he played the Indian, with Lorenzo Lamas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in the show.
Oh, Lorenzo Lamas. That's right.
He played the part of a guy named Bobby Six Killer.
Okay, I know.
Right.
Great name.
But so I was playing at the Blue Note in Hawaii, Honolulu, and his son came to the gig to see the band,
Right.
And when he found out that I was the one that played that theme music, he said, I grew up listening to that ever since I was a baby.
Exactly. Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
I said, wow, that's something, He said, he was like, he said, I can't believe it, here you are. Because his dad was the co-star of the show.
Right, exactly.
So...
It really is, it's so special when we get to meet the people who make the music that's part of...
I became really good friends with Branscombe, too,
I was going to say,
yeah.
You develop these relationships and friendships.
Yeah. I mean, I can call him up anytime, and he'll pick up the phone. Hey, Stan,
That's so wonderful.
He's a big movie star, that guy, Branscombe.
Oh, yeah. Huge. That's really wonderful. So when you and I first started talking, you sent me this great picture of my dad with his wife Shannon.
And James Cotton.
And James Cotton. You had taken the picture. I guess you were taking the picture, so you weren't in the picture. And it was in Byron Bay.
Byron Bay, yep.
Tell me about, there's a blues festival there? That's how you...
Every year they throw this big festival there in Byron Bay. I think it's called the Byron Bay Blues Festival.
Yeah.
And they have, it's a huge... They set up these like huge tents, that
Wow.
hold like 500-600 people in each tent.
Wow.
And so they had a lot of different bands playing. Somebody calling?
Yeah, it's...
Oh,
that's okay.
Yeah, they have lots of different bands there. James Cotton was there. The Greg Allman played. Mm-hmm. That band Ozo Motley played there. Some guy named Jack Douglas was playing there. Mm-hmm. And I was there with the band War.
Okay. Oh, so you were there with War.
Yeah, I was playing with War. And so I knew Greg was there, and I had met Greg before.
Well, who hasn't?
Well, I was introduced to Greg by Willie Dixon.
Oh!
It was Willie that, I'm trying to remember, it was some club here in L.A.
Oh, it's my father's L.A. days. Right.
Yeah, it was someplace, he was at someplace in L.A., and so Willie said, hey, Greg, this is my friend Stan. He says, he plays harmonica and saxophone. And then Greg turned around and looked. He said, you know what they say about guys who play harmonica and saxophone?
I can only imagine.
I didn't know what he was going to say. And he said, man, they sure eat a lot of pussy. That was the first thing that Greg Allman ever said to me.
Literally the first thing that my father said to Stanley.
Those are the words that came out of his mouth. Wow. I said, wow, okay.
It's better when my father-in-law met my dad for the first time. I apologize for being late because he shit in his pants.
When I met him in Byron Bay, I came up to him and I said, I reminded him we met with Willie and everything. I said, but we had something in common. And he said, well, what's that? I said, well, we both got liver transplants on the same day.
Wait. So you guys both got new liver. That was like Father's Day.
Father's Day 2010.
2010.
Yeah.
You had a liver.
Yeah, same day.
Greg Allman and Stan Behrens had new livers on the exact same day.
Exact same day.
What fucking magical life is this that we're
That's
in?
weird.
That is crazy pants.
Father's Day 2010. Yep.
Oh my God. That just,
What you was running high tonight.
right? How did you, oh my God.
Not in the same place. So I was up in Portland, Oregon. That's where I got
well,
mine.
yeah, I was going to say, if it was the same place, I was like, what is it, liver transplant day for like
No,
music guys or what?
Where was he? In Atlanta or something?
I think he was at Piedmont General. Yeah, I think so.
In Atlanta?
Yes, in
so I was in Portland.
In Hotlanta.
Hotlanta, yeah.
That's right. I lived in Hotlanta for about 7 years. 7 years, yes.
I
It's
remember
really
playing
fun.
that song.
Right? Oh, I love that song.
Yeah,
Such
I
a good
remember I was with a band that played that song. I was part of that band.
Oh, wow. Who haven't you played? Okay, let me ask you a question. Is there a person who you haven't played with that you would, who do you like now? Like, say, like, here's, like, for me, a person I have never met who I would love to play with, and we share a birthday, and everyone's like, how come you haven't met? I don't know. Eddie Vedder. I would love to play with him. Love. Because he just seems like such an insanely beautiful, soulful guy. But he could turn out to be my brother, or that would not be good. But you know what I mean. But I would like to play with Eddie Vedder. Who's somebody today that you would like to play with?
Hey, that's hard to say, you know.
I know, right?
There's,
That just came to me. I don't know where that came from.
I
but realized-
kind of like this kid Billy Strings.
I love Billy Strings. Oh my God.
I kind of like that guy. I like his attitude, and his playing is stellar.
Absolutely.
You know, I have a bit of country music background.
Oh, you are swampy and twangy as hell, Stan. Let me tell you. Yes.
You remember a TV show called Hee Haw?
Is that the one with the lady who had like a price tag dangling from her hat?
No, it was with Buck Owens and Roy Clark and Minnie Pearl.
Minnie Pearl.
Minnie Pearl.
Yes.
Minnie Pearl had the price.
Yeah.
Okay, hee haw. Right.
Yeah, Hee Haw. Well, there was these twin brothers that were part of that show called the Hager Twins.
Oh man, I remember them.
Well, I was in the Hager Twins band.
What?
Yeah,
It is all coming back to me.
Right? It's hitting me too.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Me either.
Oh.
It's not the LSD stand either.
Is that right?
I played with the Hager Twins, and
What magical bullshit thing. I feel like I'm having a trip. I really do. I feel like I'm on a trip right now.
so I used to work for a guy named Cliffy Stone.
Okay.
Cliffy Stone played bass with Spade Cooley,
Okay.
and he had a TV show called Hometown Jamboree.
Okay.
That was like an LA country TV show. So Cliffy would call me up to play on all these
Obviously.
demo days. He had a publishing company and everything.
Man,
This
is how things were done.
The people I played with through Cliffy, there was this little bar out in Calabasas called the Sundance Saloon.
Ooh.
Everybody used to play there at the Sundance, so it was like I met who did I meet there? That's where I got hired with the Hager Twins, but I also got hired with Larry and Laurie Collins.
Okay.
They were called the Collins Kids.
Okay.
Larry Collins was a 10-year-old guitar prodigy.
Oh, wow.
Or yeah, if you look up Larry and Laurie Collins, the Collins Kids, you'll see a 10-year-old Larry Collins with a double neck guitar playing with Joe Maphis.
No way.
And dancing around like crazy. Larry, he heard me play harmonica.
Right.
To him, I was always the Baron from New York City.
Right.
He always introduced me as the Baron from New York City.
Exactly.
And when he found out that I used to be a gymnast, I used to be able to do back handsprings all across the stage with a harmonica in my mouth.
Oh my gosh.
And so,
I mean, this is why the music industry is so wonderful.
yeah, we were playing at Harrah's Casino in Lake Tahoe.
Uh-huh.
And so after the show, I get this note that somebody wanted to meet me.
Okay.
So they invited me to the table, and it was Vic Morrow.
No way.
So me and Vic Morrow. Vic loved harmonica.
Really?
He had one in his pocket.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So Vic is from the Bronx.
I did not know that.
Yeah, Vic was from the Bronx, and Vic played combat, and
Right.
he was the teenager on Blackboard Jungle.
Exactly. Isn't Vic
he's coaching the Bad News Bears.
also isn't Jennifer Jason Leigh his daughter? Vic Morrow's her dad, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, me and Vic, we became.
So you bonded
With-
at Harrah's in Lake Tahoe.
Yeah, at
'Cause he sent a
Harrah's
note.
Casino.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I still have the Harrah's napkin with his name and his home phone number on
Oh
it.
my God! I got to come to your house. I can't imagine.
I got it right here.
Oh my God! I got to see this. This is amazing.
Wait,
This is amazing.
Let's see.
See, that's the thing about music people. Like, the deals were made and things that would happen over, like, a handshake or a drink or an acid trip or on a cocktail napkin or at the Sundance Saloon in Calabasas or at the Harrah's Casino in Lake Tahoe.
Oh yeah, here.
Vic Morrow was in Roots.
Yeah.
He was,
There it is.
With the,
We're going to redact the number. Oh, my God. That's fantastic.
Yeah, he wrote that, Vic Morrow, and that was his phone number.
Wow. That's crazy.
That was before
fast.
the area code.
Yeah, I was gonna say we'll cut it out. Show it to. You have to see this. Show it to Peter.
I can't see. It's bright.
Oh.
Yeah, I can't see.
Oh. All right. It's amazing. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's on a.
Isn't it nuts how it's like? I feel like for people who are watching or listening that they need to understand that, musicians.
I was friends with him. He just died just the other day.
Oh, George Wendt, right? I saw your post.
Oh my God, that's right. Norm from Cheers, right?
Yeah, George Wendt.
I guess George went.
Georgie Wendt, yep.
The Bears. That was a terrible pun. That was really bad. I love that guy.
Did I ever show you this? Wait, there's me. There's Carlos Santana. And he starts rubbing my belly.
I thought Carlos Santana was my father for like 20 years. Carlos is high as fuck right there.
Oh, there's I mean, he gave me his microphone and said, "Go ahead and play," This is George Lopez.
That's George Lopez.
Yeah.
Why is he on stage with y'all?
There's Lonnie Jordan from War. He looks at me and goes, "Wow, man, I thought he was going to give me a high five."
Right? Oh my God.
Is that amazing? This is at the Chase Arena in San Francisco.
Come on, people now. Oh my God. I am losing my mind because, okay, first of all, Carlos Santana in that clip, now, Peter, and what you all at home couldn't see, the clip that he just showed me, Carlos is acting like he's in his living room. He's clearly high as fuck. And he's just like, he just hands the microphone over to Stanley. And Stanley's like freeform playing for like 5 minutes.
The whole chorus of
come on, people now.
Love, smile on your brother. Come on, get together. Let's love one another right now. Jesse Colin Young tune.
Yep. I remember this one, sure.
Oh my God, I love that song.
Oh, it's a great tune.
I have not thought of that in forever. And George Lopez is on stage there with them. Carlos Santana, Stanley, and who was singing? That was crazy. That's insane.
Yeah, it was the end of the Santana show, and he said, "Come on up and play with us." You know, he invited
He's a
me up there
lovely
to
man.
play. There was 18,000 people there.
Yeah, and he makes everything so intimate that it felt like it was his living room.
And what was really cool? I was playing on his microphone.
Exactly.
So I knew 18,000 people were hearing it.
Wow. That's really a big moment. Well, you know, I was telling you, for a long time, I didn't know who my father was. I knew it was a musician, and I thought it was Carlos Santana. I don't know why I didn't look in the mirror. Hello. But such a talented man, and it was interesting because I think we were talking about, I guess, you know, the suits or whatever, but, you know, a lot of people didn't understand how Santana in his 50s had that huge hit that Clive Davis had done with him, you know, Supernatural, with all of those artists. Like, that was such a huge moment in pop culture. Like, I will still sit around and, like, I know, like, every one of the songs on that album, like, you know, he had Wyclef on there, he had Dave Matthews. What was the one? He did Maria, he did Vanessa Carlton.
Yeah.
It wasn't, like, and it won all these Grammys.
Smooth is his biggest hit.
Rob Thomas, Smooth, was
that's probably
Yeah.
his biggest hit.
Yeah.
Ever. Like, bigger than, you know, Evil Ways or Black Magic Woman.
Oye, como va?
Yeah, bigger than those, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
I saw Miles Davis open the show for Santana.
like
Did
that's
he face the crowd?
No, he had his back to the crowd the whole time.
Had you ever met him and spoken about that, or?
No, I never got a chance to meet Miles.
See, now that's somebody that Miles Davis. That I would give anything. You know, like we all have. Everyone has our heroes, and I'm sitting here with one of mine. And you know, and
Well, the Willie Dixon story is fantastic. Speaking of, you know, people,
right?
You know, Stanley's story about Willie Dixon is great.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you the story about Willie Dixon.
Yeah. Tell me that story because I think it's so interesting.
When I was married, my ex-wife, you know, she married a blues musician, and
well, that usually, you know,
and she you know, she came from a wealthy family.
Mm-hmm.
Her father was the president of the Commodity Exchange on Wall Street.
oh, I'm married to an investment banker. It's tough to have our people.
So anyway,
mix.
I couldn't ever make enough money to support her spending habits.
Well,
So anyway, her and one of her girlfriends who worked at a limousine company said, "We'll get Stan a job driving a limo." So I worked for this limo company called Dave L.
oh my God! When I was a party planner, I used to use Dave L all the time.
Well, then maybe I drove.
Oh my God! We might know each other from our former life. It's so crazy. Okay, go ahead.
This is it in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I said to these people, I said, you know what, I'm a voting member of NARIS.
Right.
And I said, don't ever ask me to drive a limousine to go to the Grammys.
Right. As a voting member of NARAS, NARAS, like, yeah, like I don't want to be a driver, but you know,
I
a
don't
check's
want to
a
be
check.
a driver. So anyway, I think it was 1986. The Grammys came around in February or something like that, and they were doing a whole feature on blues musicians.
Really?
Yeah,
Because
they had like Willie Dixon, B.B. King, Albert King, Junior Wells.
Wow.
They're just all these blues guys. So they call me up and they say, Stan, we need you to drive. And I said, I told you I don't want to drive for the Grammys.
Right.
So they said, well, we'll give you your choice, whoever blues musician you want to drive. So I said, well, let me see the list.
You have a Grammy vote, and you're like, all right, I'll look at the list. Okay.
I'll tell you, I don't know how this happens to me, but I saw Willie Dixon's name.
Okay.
Right? So I said, all right, assign me to Willie Dixon, and I'll drive. Right? He was living in Glendale.
Oh, my God.
So I drive to Glendale. I pull up to his house, and he comes out. He says, "Come on in." You know, he wasn't ready to go yet.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I have a picture of us at that Grammy night.
And the Grammys, and so he was living out in Glendale.
Yeah, he moved to Glendale. Because he had,
and traffic's bad.
He had diabetes.
Right, he had the diabetes.
And he had, one of his legs was amputated, from the diabetes. Oh.
Wilford Brimley called it diabetes.
So anyway, we started talking about blues, and I told him I used to work with Jimmy Smith and Ruth Brown, and So we get ready to go. We get in the car, and then he says to me while we're driving down to the Shrine Auditorium.
Right, that's what I was going to say. Where was it? It was at the Shrine.
I gotta find this picture because
I know. Now it's going to drive you nuts.
Yeah, it is going to drive me nuts.
Stan's scrolling through his phone.
So anyway, we get. I'll come up with it.
Okay, so tell me what happens.
We get to the shrine. We're like in the parking, online to get into the parking lot.
Right.
So he says to me,
it's a mob.
He says, "You got a harmonica on you?" He says, "Play me something." So I did have a harmonica on me. So
But you're driving.
Well, no.
I was like, how do you drive and play a harmonica?
You can drive and play at the same time, So I did this rendition of St. Louis Blues.
Yes.
And I'm playing it on the harmonica. And then he turns to say to me, "Hey, man, you must be playing that thing a long time." And I said, "Well, what makes you say that?" He said, "Because you got the tone." He says, "You can't get that tone unless you've been playing a long time." So then he says to Marie, "Hey, Marie, write down our home phone number and give it to this boy." And he said to me, "You're welcome to come to my house anytime you want."
No way.
So anyway.
Oh my God!
Dig this. So I drop Willie off, and I'm in the parking lot. It's cold. It's rainy. The weather was miserable.
I know nobody knows this, but it gets cold and rainy in LA.
Oh yeah, February is the worst month.
It is the worst.
So anyway, I open up the door of the limo after they left, and I look down on the ground, and what did I see? It was an all-access pass. I mean, all access. I walked right backstage, right into the dressing room.
No way.
And when I was back there, I wasn't out of place because I knew.
Obviously.
And there was a bunch of guys that already knew me.
Exactly. These are your people.
I've been working the NARIS after parties at the Biltmore.
Yep.
I was with that guy Cliffy Stone.
Exactly.
He put on the country shows at the Biltmore. So I did like 5 years in a row playing the Biltmore after parties.
Wow.
So anyway, we're backstage, and I'm there hanging out with Junior Wells and B.B. King and all these guys. Tim Drummond played bass.
Yep.
Tim was a really good friend of mine. In fact, Tim took a photograph of me and Junior Wells together. I have that photo also.
Wow.
So anyway, they after the show, we get back in and we go to the Biltmore. Right. I dropped Willie off and I drove home. And because I had this box that had all these buttons from the parties at the Biltmore. They were all like color coded. So that year it was a red button But I had one that was kind of, wasn't exactly red, but it was maroon.
Right.
Well, I stuck it on my lapel, and when I went to the Biltmore, I walked in,
walked
they
right
looked
in.
at it, they never said a word, and I sat down at the dinner table with Willie.
Oh my God.
You know?
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was, you know, and his manager's going, who the hell is this guy? You know, he saw me backstage, and then he sees me at the dinner table with Willie. He didn't like me.
Oh.
Willie's, he you know.
Well, managers, you know.
Yeah, his manager was kind of a dick.
Well, managers are kind of, you know.
Yeah.
If y'all at home know about my Hollywood math thing, look it up on our Instagram.
So like after this whole thing happened, then you know, me and Willie started becoming friends and everything.
Right.
So then People Magazine was doing an article on Willie Dixon.
Right.
In I think it was 86 or 1987. I get a call from People Magazine, and they wanted to know the story about how.
Friend of our show, People Magazine. We love them.
So they wrote this whole article about Willie Dixon. The article starts off, the big man gets into the leather seats of the limousine going to this year's Grammys, and he said the driver wanted to talk about the blues and everything, you know, and then they go into this whole story about Willie Dixon's life.
Right.
And Willie had just did a contract to do a movie soundtrack called A Ginger Ale Afternoon.
Right.
Right? And who was the featured player on that soundtrack?
Ginger Ale Afternoon.
It was
Stanley.
me playing harmonica and saxophone all over that soundtrack.
Oh my God!
So
I
then
know
People
that
Magazine said after like 7 decades of playing, writing, Willie created this soundtrack for the movie Ginger Ale Afternoon, and at the premiere at the Chinese Theater,
right.
Sitting next to Willie, the principal performer of the soundtrack, Stan Behrens, age 42, that drove Willie to the Grammys like the year before.
That's insane.
Yeah, so
that is so. Now that's what I call, you know, what we call, I guess, between, you know, friends of the show, we call it my witchy woo. That's what we call witchy woo. It's just something divine that puts us all together and makes something magical happen. And it's, what a beautiful thing to have happen.
Yeah, so they used me as the people, the small guy makes
Right.
it big, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like the small guy, he's already been in, like, you know. But the 80s were a tough time.
Local guy makes good, or something like that.
Exactly. 80s were a tough time for, like, the blues. You know, it was, you know.
I think if you're out there searching for something that you love doing, and there's other like-minded people out there, eventually run into each other. And, you know, people that give up on it, you know, fall to the wayside, and then it's a few people that are still pursuing that. And maybe that's why the music industry is so small. You know, everybody knows each other.
It is true. It is small. And I'll bet that manager at this point is probably, you know, not anywhere.
Oh, you know what? When Willie passed away, the manager tried to take all the royalties.
Of course he did. That's what
he did help Willie win back his royalties.
Okay.
Right, but then he was hired to do that job.
Right.
But then he wanted 1/3 of all the royalties in perpetuity, and the family didn't want to go for that.
Yeah.
And when Willie died, he showed up at the funeral. They kicked him out.
Oh my God.
They, you know, he managed Muddy Waters also.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate.
Oh, remember I said something about Dr. Quinn, the medicine woman?
Oh my God! Look at that.
Yeah, there's the mustache.
Yes.
That's Orson Bean.
Yes. Oh my God.
Gene Seymour had a mustache.
No, Stanley had they had to like give Stanley this big mustache. Like, oh my
I
God.
don't know if you could. I don't know if you could see it. That was from the TV show called Dr. Quinn, the Medicine Woman.
Sure. My mother used to watch that show. My mother loved that show. Was it a Friday night show?
What was that?
I think it was a Friday night show. Wasn't it a Friday night show?
Oh, I don't know what night of the week it was on. I didn't actually watch it.
Was it supposed to be in Australia? There was a guy with long hair. I don't even know. But like, there was some kind of like hot dude with long hair on that show who was like her sidekick. I don't know. Why am I even... I don't think I've ever watched one episode, but it was hugely popular. Extraordinarily popular.
There it is.
Oh my God, there's the picture. So that's the night that y'all went.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
we were all dressed up to go to the Grammys.
Look at that. I want to show everybody at home. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Isn't that something? You know what? I'm really glad. I wonder who was the producer of the Grammys at that time. I feel like, was Quincy Jones producing the... I mean, I'm glad they did a tribute to the blues because...
What year was that? 80...
86.
Yeah, that was 86 or 87.
86 or 87. Because I feel like... anyway, I don't even know who produces the... That's not true, I do, but... I'm just tired today, but you know, producing the Grammys like that. I mean, it used to be like Quincy Jones would produce it, or it was after the American Music Awards, which no longer exists. That
was a great award show. I remember that award show. I always found that entertaining.
It was a great show. Dude.
Hey, I have been waiting 2 months for that invitation, buddy. Are you gonna get that new sports channel before the Rams leave LA?
Rockford Files.
Look at the Griffith Observatory. Wow. That was insane.
Yeah, that was me.
That's so crazy.
Oh yeah,
Stanley.
There's Jim Hager from the Hager Twins from the Hee Haw Show.
That's right. Wow. I have not thought of Hee Haw in forever. You know.
That's me.
That's you?
Yeah.
Look at you.
Yeah,
oh
old bushy head.
Oh my God, you're giving David Crosby vibe there. Like much skinnier and better looking David Crosby.
Remember I told you my older brother rode thoroughbred racehorses?
There we go. Oh,
You
wow.
recognize the woman that he's kissing? She was a comedian.
Wait, hold
Very,
on.
very famous.
See, I have to put my glasses on. Wait, is that Phyllis Diller?
That's Phyllis Diller.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
are you kidding me?
No.
Phyllis Diller?
Yes.
Yeah, my brother's kiss. He obviously won some big stakes race. He's holding the silver platter there.
Stanley, you're like,
Wait, there's my roller derby sister.
oh my God. The Behrens family is extraordinarily prolific.
Yeah,
Okay, your
yeah,
sister's amazing.
Yeah, they called her Little Iodine.
Yeah, this is incredible.
She was the captain of the Chicago Westerners.
This is like a treasure trove. You need to write a memoir, Stanley. This is like on your to-do list. Just like, we don't have enough time. Okay, so you're still touring, you're still playing, you're still gigging, you're still, obviously you and I, we're going to go out to like all the places that, now we want to let people know it's an insider's look at the music industry, so we got to tell people where to go, but then everyone goes and then it's not cool anymore. But then, that's terrible. That's how do you define cool? Anyway, what I was going to say is, when you think about, so now as you approach, let's call it the last quarter of our earthly life, what is it that you'd like to be doing? Like, you've really contributed to so many parts of what we feel. See, to me, music isn't heard, it's felt, it's in, music is so much more than something we do with our ears.
I played on so many soundtracks and other people's records and stuff like. I think I probably should make a record of my own.
That's what I'm thinking. You really should do your own album. We should talk about that.
I did one with Willie Dixon, but it just didn't come out the way I liked it. Willie produced it. Right.
No, you need to have the Behrens album for sure. And you need to write a memoir, because I've only been sitting here with you for a few hours. My mind is completely blown. Just like, what an insane life that you've already had. Like, it's insane. So we do this little thing sometimes on the show. And it's weird. You know how I started that? It's like, who would you like to play with? And I was like, I'd like to meet Eddie Vedder and play with him. And we got all of this out of that. That's all I have to say. We do this thing on the show that I borrowed from James Lipton on Inside the Actors Studio. And I call it my Proust questionnaire, but it's the Lb&Bp, the lipstick booze questionnaire. What is your favorite sound?
My favorite song?
Sound.
You know what? I really like the sound of Howlin' Wolf.
Yes. What is your least favorite sound?
Well, I'm not a fan of any kind of rap music.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, to me, I can't even put it. I can't call it rap music. I'm not a fan of rap.
Okay, that's fair enough. What is your favorite word?
My favorite word? I don't know. Is there a favorite word?
Just right now at this moment.
I keep thinking fuck.
Right. All right, that's my favorite word. Because you can use it. It's a noun. It's a verb. It's an adjective.
You can use it in a sentence. You can use it as any kind of you can use it as part of a word. Like, I don't fucking stand. It's not my responsibility.
You don't have to fucking tell me. What the fuck?
It's such a versatile word.
It really is. It's a noun. It's a verb. It's an adjective. It's a diphthong. I don't even know.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
It is a very versatile word.
If you don't want it.
I give zero fucks. IDGAF. I am hungry AF. Anyway, what was I going to say? What is your least? I was like, after that, I was like, what is your least favorite word? What are some of the other words? What are some of the other questions that I ask? I'm still. What did you just say? It's not my fucking responsibility. Not my
responsibility.
I think we really need to end there. Really.
I don't really understand the question.
I don't really stand the question. You know what? You know what I do Stan the man.
So that's another one. That's unfucking.
That is unfucking believable.
Yeah, right.
Oh my God. If heaven exists and you make it to the pearly gates, St. Peter's there, and what does he say when he sees? What is the first thing he says to Stan the Baron Behrens?
Who? What, St. Peter?
What does he say when you get there?
Blues heaven is that way.
He hands him a harp. Hey,
That's where all the blues guys. They're all that way.
All the blues guys are over there waiting for you.
Yeah.
Stanley, it has been just incredible. I literally could sit here for like a 24-hour marathon of Stanley. I have never been so inspired in my life. I'm telling you. For part one of
unfucking believable.
Unfucking real.
Oh man,
Unfucking real.
I'm honored.
We are honored. Thank you so much for sharing this time with us, Stanley. Peter.
Great meeting you, sir.
It's another one for the books. Thank you for tuning in to Lipstick, Booze, and Backstage Passes. Until next time, we'll see you again.
All right.